Good morning, students. Myself, Lakshmanan from CAC department. Today, I'm going to take a topic on database security in DBMS. Before going to start this subject, let me discuss about what is database and what is security and why we go for database security. So if you take that as a database, you know that database is a collections of data and it is generally stored and accessed electronically from your computer systems. Data, in sense, it is information or raw fact or any data. The data are most important in so many applications, how to manage and how to store and how to access. And during that stored and access of data from the computer system, you have to know about how to protect that data from the unauthorized users. In terms of that, suppose we take some examples like we have on banking systems or reservation systems or trading or marketing, educational fields or advertisement. In all the fields, the data will play a major role. Nowadays, the data are playing major role in terms of that social networks and in that multimedia applications. How to protect the data? What is the danger? So if you take that security means definitely it should be being from a danger. So danger means in terms of how to protect that information from the unauthorized users or the hackers. In terms of that, if you make the data should be more protected and you need that security. To make that security for the data, we provide a security features for the database. So what is in a database security is, it is the mechanism that protect the database against internal and accidental threats. So what is that intentional or accidental threat in sense? If you take that any data, the data can be handled by n number of users. So n number of users, it is from the designer, programmers, and the end users and administrators. In all the levels, data are used. So in all the levels, we need to protect the data and we need to manage the data in a secure manner. So every DBMS packages or software components which provide a database security mechanism. So how to protect the data from either intentional or accidental threats? So intentional means that user within the organizations or within the company or intentionally modify the data or hack the data or change the style of the data or change the flow of data. These are all intentional. Accidental threats in terms of using some malicious codes to break the data in the databases or whenever you are using the data in a public network, it may be threatened by the unauthorized user. So it will be very harmful. The accidental threats are very harmful for that application or even for the end users. So to handle this data in a secure manner, there are many vulnerabilities are play in that software applications and in the components. If you talk about that vulnerabilities, so many vulnerabilities are play a major fact in terms of that databases. First is we take about bugs. So if you use any type of database software components, like if you're using SQL Server or using Sybase or using DB2 or any software components, we have everyone have the bugs. So that will be the one of the major vulnerability. One of the best example we can say that buffer overflow. Second thing, if you take that, if you are not having a proper security configuration for the database, then it will be a big effect on that data consistency. So you should have a proper security configuration. So improper security configuration will also lead that vulnerabilities in the databases. And many application users or many database users are using that only the default user account and the password. It will be very harmful for the database user. So don't use that any default user account or password. For example, you are likely using 123 as a password. it is not the correct way of protecting that authentication of the database. So you do not use that. And use of null password. So null password, it says if you are not having any password for your authentications or data, it will also lead to vulnerabilities. Though don't do that. And any organizations or company or a product will have a database. The database have protected by providing and privileges for all the levels of user in the organizations. For example, if you take that as a banking system, in banking system there are various roles of hierarchy and responsibilities there. For example, they have general managers, they have branch managers, tellers, clerk. Everyone they have their own authority and authentications to protect the data. You must be given exact privileges for the different roles which are playing the organizations or playing the system. It is also, if you give excess privileges to the user other than that excessive privilege, it will lead for vulnerability. And finally, the database is nowadays the database are availability in the distributed manner, and the data are flowing towards the worldwide through different types of networks and different communication medias. So you must protect the data having a proper network configurations. That is, whether the data is flow within the organization through your internal networks, or data are flow outside the organization or throughout the network through a communication media. We also make that a network will be more configured and having a correct pathway to send the data between the source and destinations. It will not lead any vulnerabilities in the network of sharing data. So to overcome these vulnerabilities, every database systems, if we take every database systems, that database system can have three main factors or characteristics. For example, if we take that as in database securities, like it having a confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So in terms of information security, we can call it CIA. That CIA is a trend for an information security. It is available for any systems and ensure that the data is protected, and how data are protected from the unauthorized access and as well as the hackers. For example, if you, what is in confidentiality is, the confidentiality is to protect the data from the unauthorized users or unauthorized access. That is in confidentiality. Suppose what is an integrity is, the integrity is sent to protect about the data and as well as to make the data is sent a correct and reliability. It should not modify by any unauthorized users. That is an integrity. And finally, if you make the availability of that data, the data, it should be available only for the authorized users, not for the unauthorized users. That is as an availability. So to make that a confidentiality, integrity, and availability for a database, then your database will become secure. For simple example, we can take that you have a banking system. The bank system will have a physical access as well as an ATM. So what is a physical system, or how to ensure the confidentiality is, you can ensure the confidentiality through your authentication and authorization. So authentications, if you have valid account number, then only you can able to access the account. And authorization, that authorization will be given for certain levels to access your account. That is in confidentiality. For example, in terms of ATM, you are inserting the card, it is asking about that PIN number. That PIN number is stored in the database in that encrypted format, and that PIN number is valid, that is validated, that is an authentication. Then only your account will be accessed. You can able to see whether you are going to withdraw the amount or deposit the amount or see the balance, anything. You must read that as authentication. That is an confidentiality. What about an integrity in terms of an ATMS? If you are if you are depositing money from your account to another account, or if you are withdrawing money from your account, once it is transaction completed, it should be correct and reliability. That is the integrity. So the ATM application will have all the functions: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So third one, what is seen as availability is, suppose if the banking hours are closed, then any user can go to the some of the ATMs, can able to access her account or his account. So it means that the system is always available for the authorized users at any time, at any place. So through that ATM, you can access your data at any time by your authorization. That is as an availability. So the availability also ensure that through your database security. So if you have either loss of confidentiality or loss of integrity or loss of availability, it means that if not having these three properties, then it means that your database is not secure and data is not secure. So to make your data is more secure through these properties, there are various database security issues that arise. First one, any organization can implement and security for the database components. They must consider about what are the legal issues and the ethical issues, what are the policy issues, and what is the system related issues, what is the need for multiple security levels. If you take the legal and ethical issues, what are the legal and ethical issues? In any organizations, that different roles can be played to access the data and store the data. So in terms of that, the ethical issues, the legal and ethical issues, it may be your privacy of the data, and you have an data is genuine, or that to trust the data and decision making and confidentiality authorizations. By considering these components, then the data, to access the data, have a legal policies. And in terms of policy issues, the policy issues is decided by the components which are used in the securities, how to provide privileges. The privileges for the various roles which play in the organizations or which are accessing the database, you must need a policy decision. So through the policies, we can make use of privileges and responsibilities in correct way to all the employees in the organization or all the database users. And third, we come to the system related issue. It is purely based on how digital transformation takes place through your computing systems. That a digital transformation nowadays, it can be takes place through different medias. Through your mobile app, you are accessing your account. Through your web services, you are accessing your account. Through your VPN, you are accessing the account. So you must take account about how to protect your systems and how data are transmitted in a secure manner through the system. It is also another one issue rises in terms of database security. And in many organizations, they have multiple levels of securities. That multiple level securities is given for different roles. That is, from we have top level securities, we have bottom level securities, we have data level securities, administration level securities. There are different levels of securities. That is also ensured that during the database design. So this is what are the types of security issue which are takes places. And to make that all the issues will be addressed or standardized by means of different components, such a way that we can able to ensure that as a database is secure. Then what are the components we have to ensure and standardize is, first in terms of an access control. So that access control, this access control will, you know that it's generally used for how to creating a user account and password to control the login. So it is one of the authentication process during confidentiality. So through your user account and the password, you can ensure that your database have a confidentiality in terms of authentications. And second one, whenever you are accessing the data, who is controlling? then how it is controlled to access the data. So nowadays, if you're, for example, if you're seeing that a balance statement of your account, so it will get that summarization of your data based on some criteria. That is, you can download that your account balance for the month or 6 months or 3 months, or you can able to view your data for month-wise, year-wise, or generating some reports in terms of inventory or banking systems or trading. We need the statistical database. So, if any organization has need to use the statistical database, one of the countermeasures in that security component is your inference control. That inference control measures will play a major role in terms of and how to manage and secure your statistical database. And to make use of these access control and statistical database, next we have another one, how data shall flow between that users. So the flow control which prevent in terms of how data are flowing in way that it should not reach any unauthorized users. That is very important. So during that data are exchanged via your different communication medium, you must ensure that data is flowing in a proper channel. That is very important. And another one components in terms of database security issue. In many organizations, they have the pathway for how informations are implicitly flow. That is for within the organization, they have that role play in terms of data which are transmitted between the different users. For example, the data flow between your GM or between the managers or that project leads or project members, it should ensure that how you are making the data is flowing the correct manner. That is as a covert channel. Covert channel is also major role. And once the data is sending from one user to another user or between the users, you must ensure data encryptions. So data encryption is the form of converting your data into plain text to the ciphertext. For example, whenever you are using a credit card, the credit card are secured by and secure socket layers. It may be encryption coding about 128 KB or even 26 KB and transmitted via some communication mediums. So during that communications, how your data are secured, how data are flowed is in terms of your data encoding. You see this, how data are encoded. You have some customers, for example, you have some customers and address. And once the data are flowed towards the communication network, it is converted into some encryption formats. So how to decrypt that encrypted the format data is only by the authorized user used an decryption algorithms to decipher. That is to convert from again ciphertext into the plain text or the original data. So we are using some decryption algorithms. So the we have different encryption algorithms how to protect the data. That is in the it comes under that security features. So to ensure to raise this all the database security issues, who will provide that security? That is very important. So these issues are handled by that one of the administrator or role play in terms of database system. You have database administrator. The DBA is play the major role in terms of database design. We can call the DBA as a super user, or sometimes you can call it as a system user who controlling that all the part of the databases and the capabilities. He or she only decide for whom to give that access and how to design the database, what is the level of data integrity to be provided, all kind of activities which is taken care by the database administrator. So if we take this data again, this database administrator, we have discussed in first unit about what is as a database users. So there are different actors in database and user in databases. If you take a database user, we have casual users, parametric users, right? And we have database users. There are many users out there. Similarly, we have database designer and DBA. That DBA is play a major role in terms of a database system. So DBA will manage and provide all the security protection mechanisms for the data to end users. So in terms of our our systems, that is if that individuals or organization are maintaining the database, can individuals will become as a database administrator, or any of the end user in the organization become a database administrator. So the DBA having some flow. What are the controls and responsibilities and tasks? The DBA, database administrator, has provided or defines and enforce that some of the standards and procedures to the end users. So that end user may be a programmer is also end user, or manager or clerk in your organization, or your the casual end user, anything will have an end user. So you know that as a programmer, the programmer can able to write the application program, or he can able to write in DBMS interfaces. That is the responsibility of as an application programmer. Why that application programmer as writing application program? For interacting with your database through DBMS. So data are stored in your physical storage. So through the physical storage, we can able to access the data only through DBMS, that is database management system package. So the programmer can write application program for accessing and storing the data in the physical storage through DBMS. And another, if you are the casual end users or parametric end users like that, for example, you are the manager of the bank or you are the clerk of the bank, you can only able to use that application program, or you can able to use that DBMS interface. And the DBA also have an other manage and monitoring about DBA interfaces. So DBA interfaces, how your databases are connected with your application program or to the internet, we have the different interfaces. For example, if we take that Java, we are using JDBC as an interface. Like that, every vendors can have their own DBA interfaces, how communicating the data with your application program and your backends through your DBMS, right? And the DBA also having a various tasks for managing and maintaining the databases. The first foremost responsibility is a database design. The database design. So the DBA has decided what is the description about the database, what is the schema of the database, how many tables are required to categorize the entire database design, what are the constraints or enforced in the database, and what is an application and the role play which are used in that databases, all are decided by a DBA, that is database design. Second one, you come for the performance monitoring and queuing. So performance monitoring, that DBA has analyzed that how many number of users can possible to access the database simultaneously in a second. So based on that, if there is an need some more user interaction, they automatically they improve that performance of the database interface. Automatically it will be increases the performance of data access and storage. And third one, database availability. Yes. So as a banking system, you know that day by day there is an increasing in the number of account holders, and there is a more number of customers or having a huge volume of data in a bank. So you must make that data available on any part of that system. System, it says in terms of core banking system or net banking system or ATM, anywhere you are accessing anywhere, it should have a database availability only for the authorized user. It is also decided by DBA. And we come to the security part. So out of these tasks, we are only take care about security, the DBA security. And another one thing, how to make the database backup and recovery. So during that different kind of failures, for example, system failures, communication failures, transaction failures, how to recover the data. That recovery mechanism also decided by the DBA. and backup. So day by day, there is a need for a backup of data for future use, and as well as that to analyze that historical data from the past transaction, we need the backup. And another responsibilities is data integrity. So data integrity is also very important. The DBA has only monitor the exchange of data between the users. They ensure that the transfer data is correct and reliable. Then only your database will contain a consistent data. So through data integrity, we can be able to avoid that duplication as well as unwanted data. And finally, very important, there is a release migration, database release migration. So during that upgradation of databases, there is a changes in the state of database. Changes in the state of database means that is your database instance. So many number of and a database schema can change, or column can change, or new features can include, and some of the constraints can include. Or once it is included, again the database schema design will change. That migration also managed and released by the database administrator. So by all these tasks, we are only considering about how to, we are only taking in account in terms of our part about security. So in terms of security, first we provide about what is an authorizations. So in terms of authorizations, very important, if you all know that you are using the database, and in the database, very important role, you have to create an account. So once if you are creating the account, and based on that account and the responsibilities, you can provide some privileges. Either it is in granting privileges, and you have revoke privileges, and security level assignment. All these are decided by only by the DBA. And for example, we already told that one of the security mechanism as a access control. So for access control, the account creation is very important. And second, in terms of privileges, we have a discretionary mechanism. What is a discretionary mechanism? Is the security mechanism used in that account level and the relation level of the database. Account level and the relation level of the database, that is a discretionary mechanism. For example, account level, it means that in terms of creating the account and in terms of creating the database, like that, we are using the discretionary mechanism by using granting and revocations. And finally, we have a security level assignment. So the security level assignment is a mandatory authorization. It is also decided by the DBA. So how that DBA is creating the account, you know that in terms of an account number and password. So if you are the individual users or the group of users, first you should need the creation of an account number and password for the users. So then only the user will become an authorized user to access the database. So once that authentication is provided to the users, by using that user account and the password, you can be able to log in the DBMS. So only for accessing the data, as the privileges is provided for you only, not the access privileges. That is also decided by the DBA. So in terms of that privileges, we have two levels of discretionary mechanisms. One is an account level. I told one is an account level. It is decided by the DBA. So each account holder will have an independently access of the relation in the databases. And you know what is a relation, right? So at this level, DBA can control the privileges and each access individual and or the view of the database. You know, view in the database, it is a virtual database which are created from your base database, that is in view. So what are the privilege control can be applied at that various account level is very important one. First one is creating about schemas, right? So you know what is a schema, right? So schema is, it is in the about and description of the database, what is the table name, what is the number of columns, what is the number of rows, what is the database, what is the database name, then what is the data type, and what is the constraints are defined, which are all defined through a schema. We can creating schema through your very simple example in SQL using table, create table commands, right? and creating views. I already told view is a virtual table of a physical table or a physical database. And you know what is an alter privileges. So these all privileges, your create schema, table or alter drop, which are all used at that DDL, data definition language, at that account levels, right? Next to come for that table level or the relation level, you know that we have some data manipulation language. So in that data manipulation language, we have some of the commands like we have an insert, we have an delete, update. If you are providing privileges, such kind of commands, we are using at relation levels. So we'll discuss one by one. So to make a discretionary privileges, we have two type of privileges. One is a grant and revoke. So in terms of SQL, we can classify that sub commands or the sub languages as in, you know already what is a DDL statement, like data definition language, like data manipulation language, you know already. Both are you are used to, you know. And we have another two languages like data control language and data transition language, right? So grant and revoke command or data command, data control language command, that grant is allowing privileges for the users on the database, right? And revoke is in how to revoke that permission from the users. We can use the revoke command. In that upcoming topic, we'll see how to use that grant and revoke command. And nowadays, the many databases are decentralized, that is distributed. So if we take that decentralized or distributed, we need that grant will be very easy. We can easily grant to any user which are sharing the distributed database. It's very easy, but revoke is more complex because the data are distributed for the multiple user on the multiple platform. It is very difficult to revoke, right? And usage is similar to what I told earlier, that is its privileges. Okay, so this revoke and grant command, where can I use? In which level I can use? Like that, you know some of the SQL data, command types. So if we take the DDL, data definition language, we have an, you know already what is an create. It is used for create schema or create table. We have an alter, drop, truncate, rename. So this grant command can use at the account level only through DDL commands, data definition language. Similarly, if you are using privileges in that DML, that is in the relation level, we can use data manipulation language. Like if I'm using that privileges at the relation levels in terms of selecting data or updating data or inserting data or deleting data or merge data, even I want to log some particular relations, I can do by using the DML statement. So that privileges can use at the DML level. So that is that we are take that DCL commands, grant and revoke. It can be applied in various commands, like in terms of TCL commands, right? Transaction control language. It is another one command. How to make the database is consistent and durability. For example, you know that if any data are updated in the database, it should be a consistent. It is permanent. So you must ensure that the ACID property of the data. You must need some commit and rollback. Right? So that commit command and rollback command and save point that ensure that the data are made permanent into the databases. We're using the TCL command, transaction control language. These commands are basically used if you are using that your data in the form of transaction, that you already know that it is comes under that transaction processing. If you are using that, definitely you know about what is in as a TCL. So this is a simple example about grant and revoke, how ensure that how these commands are work. We are tested with some of that, even your XAMPP, you can use these privileges or SQL plus or anything Oracle. The syntax is, we have an grant is a command and privilege. You know already what are the privileges, right? Privileges in terms of DDL, we have an create privilege like that. These are the privileges: create, alter, drop, truncate, rename, select. In terms of table level, you have select, update, insert, delete, merge, and lock table. These are the privileges. So we can use like grant privileges for which table. This is table means it is in terms of relation level security. So on table, 2 roles, that is 2 users, right? For simple example, you can take that In that example, we are giving like this. We have an grant create is a privilege, that is a DDL command table, right? Create table to some users. Similarly for triggers, triggers will make an action based on the event, and create sequence or procedure view, anything can be created. So create allowing providing exact privileges to the user which play in different roles. For example, I'm creating role as a clerk. I can only give some privileges like select, insert, and update and delete, not more than that. That have to decide. And another is a revoke command. Say revoke is to revoking the permission from the user at any point of time. We can use revoke. So revoke privileges on table from user, granting to user and revoking from user. So the revoke option, which has then two options, one is restrict and cascade. So if you make that as a cascade, it revokes all the cascade through its subtrace. It means that suppose I want to revoke the entire privileges from the user one. For example, I am revoking the role means it revoke all the privileges, like you have create anything, any levels. Restrict means it will revoke only the particular privilege if there is no have any subtree. For example, if I am revoking only the select command from the user one, I can revoke, right? So that cascade we can use carefully if that a user not having the different levels of privileges. If that user not having different level of privileges, we can use and restrict. If the user having a multiple levels of privileges, then you can use cascade to revoking the permission, right? That is in what is in as a grant and revoke. And second mechanism, so first one, in very few applications, they are using that security features at the table level and as well as at the your account level. But in many organizations, they need to enhance the security in terms of classifying both data and users. Not only protecting the data, they want to protect the data as well as the user combinedly. How it is possible is the many organization has provided with them a mandatory access controls. So it is a security policy that is needed that classifies the data and user, right? And this mandatory policy ensures that a high degree of protections. It has one of the advantage, mandatory access control has one of the advantages, high degree of protections, and it can be ensured that your data and they prevent the data from any illegal flow of informations. That is one of the greatest advantage of these mandatory policies. And only drawback in a mandatory access control, it can be used only in the limited environment. That is that only drawback. But at the same time, it can used in that any right level of data productions. Compared to mandatory, compared to your discretionary have the advantage only about it is very simple and flexible, but it is not having that high level of security. It means that if you are having only that privileges security mechanism, then it is an possibilities of hack the data through your malicious code. So to overcome that, if you have an application, it must have both mandatory access control as well as discretionary access control. That is very important, right? And how these classify the data and the users, how they are classifying. So the users are classified in terms of subjects. User means we have a subject as a user or programmer, right? Or we have an account, all are called as a subject, right? And similarly for objects, so anything which is used in that or any components used in the database, for example, your relation or your column or tuple, that is rows, views, operation, which are called as an object. So to make that different type of classes and the data, we can classify the security at various levels. We already told that one of the database security issue is how to handle that multiple security level assignments. That security level assignment, it is based on these classes of security used at the mandatory levels. we have a top security, that is the highest level of security used in that security policy of the organization, and we have a secret, that you know the word is in secret, and confidential. Confidential is ensure about authorization and authentications, and unclassified. So unclassified is a very low level security. It only protecting only the authorizations. That is in the authorizations, right? So we have an subjects and objects, right? So we can use that security at different levels combinedly. Suppose we take that simple security properties. A subject is not allowed to read. For example, any user or account or program is not allowed to read the relation or tuple or column only if the class is greater than the objects. Only this user having a top level security than objects. Then only it can allow to read. Another one property we have as a star property. Star property, the subject, for example, the user is not allowed to write any data. That is any relations or any tuples, anything, unless that a class is greater than the subjects. That is, it has an full access rights to the relation and the tuple, then only you can able to modify the data by the user. It is an security classifications. Like that, we can use that as in different levels at the different types of the databases, because these levels of securities and classifications, it can be used in the different databases. Like it may be used in object data models or multimedia databases or mobile databases, or even your nowadays we have in your data warehousing or data mining, or even the cloud storage. We can organize the data by using these security classifications. It is possible, right? And the many organizations are enforcing the security policies that for managing the large scale enterprise data systems, they are using that role-based access control, that is RBAC, role-based access control. So role-based access control, it is a hierarchical of the role and responsibilities which are created in the organization for accessing the database. You can create the role and as well as destroy the role. So create role and role name, some within admin rights or current user right or current role right, and you can also destroy the roles. And role hierarchy in that RBC, that is RBAC, role-based access control, it is a natural way of organizing roles to reflect the organization. So to reflect the organizations, it means that about the line of authorities and responsibilities for every user which are using the database in the organization. So if you take any databases, the databases are allowed that the concept of roles, and where the privileges can be assigned to the roles. For example, if we take that as a manager, the manager role is different from the clerk. The clerk role is different from the teller. So the DBA, the database administrator, will not give the same privileges for all the assigned roles. It will be different. Then only we can able to ensure that security of the data which are managed in the databases by the large scale enterprise systems of the organization. That is as a role-based access control. And this role-based access control can also use both your discretionary privileges and as well as mandatory control mechanisms. So mandatory control mechanism means, for example, I am creating role as a manager. I can create the role as a manager means I can give full rights, that is full privileges for the manager role, like it can give that account level creation as well as table level creation. Similarly, if I am having that role as a teller, for example, as a teller, the teller can have only at that relation level roles, not at that account level roles, because the teller can only modify the accounts or only able to insert the new account holders or join the new account holders, or they can see the balance of the account like that. they cannot possible to enhance that any statistical database or anything, and they don't have that any access privileges to authorize that user data. Only that manager will have. So that is decided by what is in as a role. And second thing, destroy role, it is also a more complicated process in the organization, because it is not easily simply destroy that role from that databases. It is be very careful, because before destroy the role, you must ensure that the role is not a play within a private role. Private role, it sense that they should not have any other responsibilities related to the role. Then only you can able to destroy. Because if you are casually deleting the role, it will affect that other responsibilities of the role in some database account. That will be affected. So it will be leads to and a hackers to hack the data very easily. So create role is very simple, and the destroy role is somewhat complicated, which is properly managed and it can be properly handled. That is very important. That is as a role-based access controls. So as a DBA database administrator, out of the various tasks, you can have that correct one about how to managing the security of the databases. That is very important, right? So so if you take that DBA, right, you may be the user, may be the programmer should know about security, or user may be the end user should know about the security, or user may be the database designer should know about the security. That is very important, right? So for this topic, we only concentrate about and securities, but not taken into account other parts, right? So likewise, from this topic, there are so many possible questions can be asked from this topic. Very importantly, we can say that. So there are three different types of question may be asked. One from the discretionary control mechanisms, like we can use, we can say about what is an upper level security, what is in relation level securities, what are the privileges as provide, and what privileges are used in that, what are the different commands like DDL commands, DML commands, and you can discuss with what is the syntax of that grant and revoke, and some example for grant and revoke. This kind of things you can answer for the question. It is also one important question from this topic. And another one in terms of what are the how to analyze that database security issues. Analyze it sense that how to identify the vulnerabilities. In that vulnerabilities, how to overcome that vulnerabilities by taking different security issues, like what I have discussed earlier, like what is an legal and ethical issues, what is an policy issues, what are the system related issues, right? And what is an access control, what is an flow control, this kind of things we can discuss. And another one topic about in terms of how the organization has lead to providing better security mechanism for the databases, for managing the databases. You can analyze and justify about mandatory security mechanisms, right? So mandatory security mechanisms in terms of that, what are the classifications of your data, and what are the classifications of security, like we have top security, secret, right, confidential, unclassified, and what are the two restricted methodologies used to classify the data. So we have an simple security and star properties, simple properties, and what is as a role-based access control. So role-based access control can used both in the discretionary and as well as that can used in that the mandatory access control. So this is also important, right? So this is another one important topic. Why we discuss at the last is if you know that all the databases, all the database concept like your query processing or transaction processing or your concurrency control or recovery mechanisms. If you know that all the things and all the part that security will play a major role. That's why that we discussed that security at the last, and this will be an very crucial part in terms of databases. We can simply create a schema and you can simply make a transaction and you can simply provide that concurrency control for the transaction. This part will be anyone can able to do, but the security, it is not possible every user can do. It is only can done by that database administrator, right? So this is about that what I said as a, yeah, database security in the DBMS. So in that, if you take the different Oracle where they have the security features different, if you take that SQL Server, they have security features different. If you take IBM DB2, they have security features different. There are so many security features are there, right? And that will be if you are becoming a database administrator or if you want to become a database designer, you can also make use of that. How to make the data is more secure. That is very important, right? So up to this, we come to the end. So any queries, anything, you can drop the mail to my mail ID. I always welcome that your mail, any queries, anything related to the topics. I will be able to answer through mail at any time, right?